A tiny sloth clung desperately to a fallen tree, abandoned and alone in the merciless rainforest. For 3 days, the orphaned baby survived on nothing but determination and instinct. But when the jungle's deadliest predator discovered the helpless creature, everything changed in an instant. What happened next defies everything we understand about nature's most brutal law: eat or be eaten. Nobody could have predicted how this encounter would end. In the heart of the dense Costa Rican rainforest, a tiny 3-toed sloth clung to a fallen tree spanning a rushing stream. His oversized claws, built for a lifetime in the canopy, dug desperately into the rotting bark. This wasn't where he belonged. The deafening chorus of the jungle surrounded him, birds calling, monkeys chattering, insects buzzing, all seeming to mock his isolation and vulnerability. At just 8 weeks old, he should have been nestled against his mother's warm fur, learning to identify safe leaves, watching her navigate the treetops with slow, deliberate movements. But she was gone, taken by a harpy eagle 3 days earlier as they traveled between feeding trees. The attack had been swift and merciless. One moment, his world was secure. The next, he was plummeting through layers of foliage before landing on this fallen giant that bridged the water below. The baby's fur was matted from rain and tears, his tiny body trembling with each gust of wind that threatened to dislodge him from his precarious perch. His once adorable face, with its permanent smile-like marking, now seemed to wear a grimace of pain and fear. His movements were painfully slow as he inched along the log, searching for anything edible. The fallen tree had become both his prison and his only lifeline in a world designed for creatures far more agile and fierce than him. Wildlife biologists know that baby sloths separated from their mothers rarely survive more than a few days. Their specialized digestive systems require specific bacteria passed down from their mothers. Without it, even if he found food, his body couldn't process it properly. Starvation had already begun its cruel work, hollowing out his little frame from the inside. His ribs were becoming visible beneath his damp fur, and his once bright eyes had grown dull with exhaustion and hunger. Yet something remarkable burned within this tiny creature. A stubborn flame that refused to be extinguished by the overwhelming odds stacked against him. Each painful movement along the log revealed a fighting spirit that defied his gentle nature. When he found a patch of moss, he devoured it with surprising determination. When rain poured down, threatening to wash him from his sanctuary, his claws gripped with unexpected strength. When night fell, he tucked his head against his chest, becoming nearly invisible among the moss and lichen that matched his algae-tinged fur. The rainforest had never seemed so vast, so indifferent to his suffering. Creatures passed above and below. Toucans, capuchin monkeys, poison dart frogs, all going about their business, none stopping to aid the orphaned sloth. This was the brutal reality of life in one of Earth's most competitive ecosystems. Compassion was a luxury that evolution had not programmed into the genetic code of the jungle's inhabitants. As the sun began to set on his 3rd day alone, painting the canopy in fiery oranges and deep purples, the baby sloth curled into himself, conserving what little energy remained in his diminishing body. His breaths came shallow now, each one a small victory against the encroaching darkness. But as night enveloped the rainforest, the baby sloth had no idea that hungry eyes were already watching his every move. Eyes that belonged to the most feared predator in all the Americas. As darkness claimed the rainforest, the fallen tree became an island in a sea of unseen threats. The baby sloth's wide eyes evolved for dim canopy light, strained to detect movement in the shadows. Every rustle made his tiny heart race. Though his body remained motionless, the only defense his kind had ever known. The night air grew thick with humidity, carrying the complex symphony of nocturnal creatures awakening to their domain. A world where the weak seldom survived until dawn. 100 yards upstream, something slipped into the water with barely a ripple. The Jaguar moved like liquid shadow, her muscular body barely disturbing the surface as she crossed. At nearly 200 pounds, she was the rainforest's apex predator, a perfect killing machine with jaws powerful enough to crush a caiman's skull. Her coat, wet and sleek against her rippling muscles, bore the distinctive rosette pattern that had evolved over millennia to render her invisible in the dappled forest light. Tonight, she hunted with purpose. Not for herself, but for the 2 cubs waiting in a hollow tree half a mile away. 3 weeks had passed since she'd given birth, and her cubs were growing stronger daily. Their spotted coats were beginning to show the distinctive patterns that would one day make them masters of concealment. Soon she would begin teaching them to hunt, but for now, they depended entirely on what she could provide. The drought had made game scarce, pushing her to hunt in unfamiliar territories. She hadn't eaten in 2 days, and hunger sharpened her already formidable senses to a razor's edge. The Jaguar emerged from the water, her golden coat appearing almost black in the moonlight. Water streamed from her powerful frame as she paused, nostrils flaring. The scent was faint but unmistakable. Something small, weak, alone. Easy prey. Her whiskers twitched, detecting minute changes in the air currents that might betray her approach to potential prey. Her paws, each the size of a dinner plate and equipped with retractable claws sharp enough to disembowel a tapir, left no trace of her passing on the soft forest floor. She moved toward the fallen tree with deadly silence, each paw placement deliberate and precise. Her spotted pattern broke up her outline in the dappled moonlight, rendering her nearly invisible despite her size. Only her eyes betrayed her presence. 2 golden orbs reflecting what little light filtered through the canopy. Those eyes, capable of seeing 6 times better than a human's in darkness, had already locked onto the tiny form huddled on the log. The baby sloth sensed the change in the forest before he saw it. The night creatures had gone silent. No frogs calling, no insects chirping. Just the oppressive weight of predatory presence. Ancient instinct told him to freeze completely, to become one with the bark beneath his claws. His heart, normally beating at a languid pace suited to his energy-conserving lifestyle, now thundered in his tiny chest. Sweat beaded beneath his fur, releasing pheromones that only confirmed his fear to any predator within range. But it was too late. The Jaguar had already spotted him. She approached the log with calculated patience, muscles coiled and ready. Each step was a masterpiece of evolutionary perfection, silent, balanced, and poised for explosive action. To her, the tiny sloth was barely a mouthful, hardly worth the energy of the hunt. Yet her cubs needed every morsel she could provide. The maternal instinct that drove her was just as powerful as her hunger, perhaps more so. Her powerful jaws, capable of delivering 2,000 pounds of force per square inch, could end the sloth's life in an instant, without a sound to disturb the night. A shaft of moonlight broke through the canopy, illuminating the scene like nature's spotlight. The contrast could not have been more stark, the embodiment of helplessness facing the ultimate predator. The sloth's algae-tinged fur, an adaptation that usually helped him blend with the leafy canopy, now made him stand out against the dark bark of the fallen tree. The baby sloth trembled as the massive predator padded onto the fallen tree. The wood creaked slightly under her weight, a sound that seemed to echo through the silent forest. Their eyes met across the moonlit gap. Prey and predator locked in nature's oldest relationship. The sloth's large, innocent eyes reflected a mixture of fear and resignation, while the jaguar's gaze held the cold, calculating assessment of a born killer. In that moment, the sloth's fate seemed sealed by the implacable laws of survival. A single leap would close the distance between them. The jaguar's muscles tensed, her back legs gathering beneath her in preparation for the final pounce. Her tail swished once, the only tell before a jaguar's attack. The tiny sloth, sensing the end was near, closed his eyes and tucked his head against his chest in a final, futile gesture of self-protection. But sometimes, even in nature's most brutal theater, the script changes in ways no one could predict. Just as the jaguar prepared to launch herself forward, a sound pierced the night, a sound that made even the rainforest's most feared predator freeze in place. The sudden sound, a sharp crack followed by a series of rustling leaves, pierced the tension-filled air like a gunshot. Both the baby sloth and the jaguar instinctively paused, their instincts screaming for caution. The jaguar's keen ears twitched as she turned her head slightly, her golden eyes narrowing in focus. The sound had come from deeper within the underbrush, drawing her attention away from her intended prey. The baby sloth, still clinging desperately to the log, dared to open his eyes a fraction, peering through the branches to see what might be lurking in the shadows. Was it another predator? Or perhaps something that could distract the jaguar long enough for him to escape? His heart raced, driven not only by fear, but the flickering hope that he might yet survive the night. From the dense foliage, a troop of capuchin monkeys swung into view. Their chatter echoed through the trees, a cacophony of high-pitched calls that filled the silence left by the nocturnal creatures. The monkeys, oblivious to the drama unfolding just a few feet away, landed with grace on the branches above the fallen tree, their playful antics a stark contrast to the gravity of the situation below. The jaguar's instincts were finely tuned to the sounds of the forest, and her attention shifted quickly. The capuchins were known for their raucous behavior, and she had learned that when they were loud, it often meant danger was nearby. They were adept at spotting threats, and their alarm calls could alert other animals of her presence. She hesitated, her predatory instincts clashing with the need to remain undetected. Seizing the moment, the baby sloth dared to inch backward along the log, his tiny limbs moving with painstaking slowness as he sought to put distance between himself and the jaguar. He knew he had to remain as inconspicuous as possible, blending into the bark and moss. Each movement felt monumental, as if the slightest noise could alert the jaguar, sealing his fate. The capuchin monkeys continued their noisy chatter, leaping from branch to branch, drawing the jaguar's attention further away. They scolded one another, their tiny faces animated with excitement as they swung through the trees. The jaguar's muscles relaxed slightly as she turned her head, following the monkey's movements. She could not afford to lose her chance at a meal, but the potential for her own safety was paramount. If the monkeys had spotted her, it would only be a matter of time before her cover was blown. Suddenly, with a swift motion, the jaguar pivoted, her eyes narrowing as she assessed the troop above. She crouched low, her body poised to leap if the opportunity arose. The baby sloth, then still clinging to the log, felt a surge of adrenaline as he watched the predator prepare to abandon him. This was his chance. With a newfound determination, fueled by instinct, the baby sloth took a deep breath and, in an act of sheer desperation, inched his way over the edge of the log and dropped into the foliage below. The fall wasn't far, but it felt like an eternity. He landed on a bed of leaves, the soft surface breaking his descent, and he quickly curled into himself, hoping to blend in with the Earth's natural camouflage. The jaguar, sensing movement below, hesitated. Her attention split between the monkeys overhead and the rustle in the underbrush. With a final glance at the log, she decided to pursue the noise, abandoning her intended target for now. The baby sloth held his breath, heart racing, as the sound of the jaguar's powerful strides faded into the distance. He lay still, feeling the earth pulse beneath him, every heartbeat echoing in his ears. The cacophony of the rainforest resumed, the capuchins chattering about their mischief, unaware of the life-or-death drama that had just played out below them. The sloth slowly uncurled, peering through the leaves, the adrenaline still coursing through his tiny body. In that moment of quiet, he realized how fragile life was. The jungle was a place of beauty, full of vibrant life and wonder. But it was also a ruthless arena of survival where every creature played a part in the grand tapestry of existence. He needed to find his way back to safety, to a tree where he could feel the warmth of the sun and the comfort of leaves that would nourish him. With renewed determination, he began to navigate through the underbrush, moving at a painstakingly slow pace. Each subtle shift of his limbs was a reminder of his vulnerability, but also of his tenacity. He would not give up. He would find his way back to life, back to the treetops, where the dangers of the ground would be behind him, and he could once again feel the embrace of the canopy. As he moved, he was unaware that the jaguar had not given up so easily. She lingered in the shadows, her predatory instincts still sharp, ever watchful and ready to reclaim her chance at the hunt. The night was far from over, and the dance of life and death in the rainforest continued to unfold. The baby sloth cautiously made his way through the underbrush, every sound amplified in the stillness of the night. The scent of damp earth and decaying leaves filled his nostrils, grounding him in the moment. He paused occasionally, listening to the sounds of the rainforest, crickets chirping, the distant call of an owl, and the rustle of leaves in the gentle breeze. Each sound reminded him of the life that thrived around him, a life that he was desperately trying to be a part of. Navigating through the forest floor was not easy. The ground was littered with roots and tangled vines that threatened to ensnare him. Every so often, he would feel a prick of fear at the back of his mind, a reminder of the predator that lurked nearby, waiting for the slightest misstep. He could almost feel the jaguar's gaze upon him, a phantom presence that urged him to hurry. Yet he knew that haste could lead to mistakes. As he moved cautiously, he reflected on his life thus far, how he had spent his days lazily hanging from branches, munching on leaves, and soaking up the sun. He had always thought of himself as safe, nestled high in the treetops, far from the dangers below. But tonight, the forest had transformed into a treacherous landscape, each shadow a potential threat, every sound a reminder of his insignificance in the grand scheme of things. After what felt like an eternity, he finally spotted a familiar outline. A large, gnarled tree that had stood sentinel in the clearing for as long as he could remember. Its branches stretched wide, offering a safe haven far above the ground. With a sudden rush of energy, he pushed himself forward, scrambling over the last few obstacles that stood between him and safety. Just as he reached the base of the tree, a sudden movement caught his eye. The jaguar, having tracked him through the underbrush, emerged from the shadows with a grace that belied her size. Her eyes gleamed with predatory focus, and in that moment, the baby sloth felt his heart drop into his stomach. He was mere feet from safety, But the jaguar was closer still. With a desperate surge of will, the sloth began to climb, his limbs moving in a frantic dance as he ascended the tree. He could feel the jaguar's presence behind him, her breath hot against his back as she leaped toward him, powerful muscles propelling her through the air. He scrambled higher, each clawed grasp a desperate attempt to escape the jaws that would surely end his life. As he reached the first sturdy branch, he swung himself up and clung tightly, heart racing, eyes wide. The jaguar landed below, her powerful body coiling in preparation for another leap. But she hesitated, looking up at him with an intensity that sent chills down his spine. The sloth could see the jaguar calculating, weighing her options. She was a master of the hunt. But this time, she faced a challenge unlike any she had encountered before. With a final, defiant roar, the jaguar leaped toward the branch where the sloth clung. But the baby sloth was ready. He pushed off the branch with all his strength and swung himself into the dense foliage above, the leaves cushioning his escape as he disappeared into the canopy. The jaguar, thwarted for the moment, landed on the branch with a thud, her eyes darting around, trying to locate her elusive prey. But the sloth was now hidden among the leaves, his heart pounding in his chest, a mix of terror and exhilaration coursing through him. He had escaped the jaws of death, at least for now. As he nestled himself deeper into the foliage, he realized that he was not just a passive creature in this vast ecosystem. He was a survivor, a small yet vital part of the intricate web of life that thrived in the rainforest. He would learn to navigate this dangerous world, to understand the signals of the forest, and to trust his instincts. The night was still young, and the jungle was alive with sounds of myriad creatures, some familiar, some new. For the baby sloth, this was not just a fight for survival. It was a journey of discovery. In the heart of the rainforest, he would carve out his own path, embracing the challenges that lay ahead. The canopy above the baby sloth was a tapestry of green, woven with shadows that danced in the moonlight. Hidden among the dense leaves, he took a moment to gather his thoughts, his heart still racing from the recent encounter with the jaguar. The world around him buzzed with life, each sound a reminder of the vibrant ecosystem that surrounded him. He listened intently, absorbing the lessons that the forest had to offer, his little body resting on a sturdy branch that swayed gently in the evening breeze. As the night wore on, the sloth began to notice the patterns of the jungle. The capuchin monkeys continued their playful antics, their calls echoing through the trees, a cacophony of high-pitched chatter that filled the silence left by the nocturnal creatures. The monkeys, oblivious to the drama unfolding just a few feet away, landed with grace on the branches above the fallen tree, their playful antics a stark contrast to the gravity of the situation below. He realized that these monkeys, though small and seemingly frivolous, played a critical role in the balance of life. They were the sentinels of the treetops, their keen eyes and sharp voices alerting others to danger. The sloth felt a twinge of admiration for the monkeys, understanding now that survival often relied on community and vigilance. Yet, there was still a gnawing fear buried deep within him. The jaguar was a constant reminder that danger lurked just beyond the edges of his perception. He had narrowly escaped death, but he knew that in the wild, such close calls were not uncommon. The realization hit him hard. He would need to adapt if he wanted to thrive in this unforgiving environment. With newfound resolve, he began to explore his surroundings. The branches of the tree provided a safe haven, and he took advantage of this respite. He moved slowly, testing the strength of the limbs beneath him, gaining confidence with each careful movement. The leaves whispered secrets of wisdom, and he learned to listen, not just to the sounds around him, but to the instincts that urged him to be cautious yet curious. Each subtle rustle in the canopy caught his attention, and he found himself more attuned to the delicate balance of life surrounding him. As dawn approached, the colors of the forest transformed. The dark blues and blacks of night gave way to the soft hues of dawn. Pinks and oranges splashed across the sky, filtering through the green canopy. The baby sloth felt a sense of calm wash over him, a reassurance that he had survived another night. Yet, the morning light brought with it new challenges. The world was waking up, and with it, the call of hunger stirred within him. His stomach grumbled softly, reminding him that he needed to find sustenance to replenish his energy. The sloth's diet primarily consisted of leaves, and he knew he needed to find food. He'd often feasted on a variety of foliage, but now he was acutely aware of the dangers that came with moving about the forest. He took a deep breath, inhaling the earthy scent of damp leaves and the sweet aroma of the flowers that blossomed nearby. With a determined heart, he began to navigate his way through the branches, seeking out the tender leaves that would fill his belly. As he climbed, he noticed the forest coming alive around him. Birds flitted from branch to branch, their vibrant plumage a stark contrast against the green backdrop. The calls of howler monkeys echoed in the distance, announcing their presence with boisterous roars that shook the very leaves he clung to. The sloth marveled at the beauty surrounding him, a reminder that life thrived in many forms. He felt a rush of excitement as he realized that he was not just an observer, but a participant in this intricate dance of life. He spotted a cluster of young leaves nestled high in a nearby tree, a favorite delicacy of his kind. With careful precision, he made his way toward the branch, his limbs moving with a grace he hadn't realized he possessed. Each reach and grasp felt more assured, a testament to his resilience and determination to survive. He could feel the energy of the forest flowing through him, encouraging him to embrace his instincts and trust in his abilities. Just as he settled onto the branch, preparing to munch on the tender leaves, a rustle in the foliage below caught his attention. He froze, instincts taking over. The sound was too deliberate to be a harmless breeze. He peered down cautiously, eyes wide, and saw a large iguana sunning itself on a rock, oblivious to the sloth above. Though not a direct threat, the iguana's presence served as a reminder of the myriad dangers that inhabited the forest. Suddenly, the distant sound of a powerful roar echoed through the trees. The jaguar was still nearby. The sloth felt a shiver run down his spine as the memories of their last encounter flooded back. He knew that the jaguar was a stealthy hunter, capable of moving through the forest with a grace that was almost supernatural. The realization that she could be prowling the very same trees sent a jolt of adrenaline through him. With that thought fresh in his mind, he resumed his search for food, his senses heightened. He carefully selected leaves, chewing slowly to savor the nourishment while remaining alert. He was acutely aware of every sound, every shift in the air around him. The forest was alive with the sounds of life, and he was determined to be a part of it. As the sun rose higher in the sky, illuminating the vibrant greens and browns of the forest, the sloth felt a growing sense of empowerment. He was not just a passive observer, but an active participant in this intricate ecosystem. He began to understand that survival was not merely about escaping danger. It was also about embracing the rhythm of the forest, learning from the other creatures that inhabited it, and finding his place within the grand tapestry of life. But just as he began to feel a sense of confidence, the unmistakable sound of soft footsteps reached his ears. He froze once more, instincts kicking in as he scanned the area below. This time, it was not the jaguar he feared, but something equally unsettling. An enormous boa constrictor, slithering through the underbrush, its scales glinting in the sunlight. The snake was a master of stealth, and from his vantage point, the sloth could see the way its body moved with purpose, searching for its next meal. The sloth's heart raced. The boa was a silent predator, and while it did not typically hunt sloths, the unpredictable nature of the rainforest meant that any creature could become prey. He clung tightly to the branch, forcing himself to remain still as the snake passed beneath him. He could feel the tension in the air as the boa slowly navigated the forest floor, its eyes scanning the surroundings with lethal intent. Time seemed to stretch as the sloth held his breath, his tiny body trembling with a mix of fear and adrenaline. After what felt like an eternity, the boa finally slithered away, disappearing into the dense foliage. The baby sloth released a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding, relief washing over him. But the encounter had taught him another valuable lesson. Danger could strike from anywhere, and vigilance was paramount. He realized that survival in the rainforest was not just about avoiding predators, but also about understanding the intricate web of life that surrounded him. Every creature, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, played a role in the ecosystem, and he would need to learn from them if he wanted to thrive. With this newfound perspective, the baby sloth continued his quest for food, his movements more deliberate and calculated. He began to observe the behavior of the creatures around him. He watched the capuchins as they skillfully navigated the branches, learning how they maintained their balance and communicated with one another. Their lively chatter served as a reminder of the importance of teamwork and awareness, qualities that could mean the difference between life and death in the treetops. He observed the way the toucans used their vibrant beaks to forage for fruit, and how the ants worked together in organized lines, demonstrating the power of cooperation. The sloth felt a growing sense of connection to the forest, a deep-rooted understanding that he was part of something greater than himself. He began to mimic the movements of the capuchins, practicing his balance on the branches, using his long limbs to reach for leaves that were just out of grasp. With every new skill he acquired, he felt his confidence grow. He would adapt, learn, and grow stronger with each passing day. He was no longer just a baby sloth. He was a survivor, a participant in the ongoing dance of life within the rainforest. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the forest floor, the baby sloth found a safe branch to rest on. He nestled into the leaves, feeling the gentle sway of the tree as night descended once more. His mind was filled with thoughts of the day's events, the lessons learned, and the challenges that still lay ahead. He knew that the jaguar was still out there, prowling the shadows, and that danger could strike at any moment. But now, he felt a sense of readiness, a determination to face whatever came his way. The forest was both a sanctuary and a battleground, and he was prepared to navigate its perils. With a final glance at the vibrant sunset, he closed his eyes, allowing the sounds of the jungle to lull him into a peaceful slumber. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but he was ready to embrace them, to learn and grow. He was a part of the rainforest, a small creature with a big heart, determined to survive and thrive in the wild. As night fell, the stars emerged like tiny gems scattered across a vast velvet sky, glimmering above the forest. The sloth drifted into sleep, dreaming of the adventures that awaited him. He envisioned himself swinging gracefully through the trees, foraging with the capuchins, and perhaps even finding a way to outsmart the jaguar. In his dreams, he was not just a baby sloth, but a hero of the jungle, navigating the complexities of life with courage and wisdom. With each passing day, he would grow stronger and learn more about his world. He understood that the forest held countless secrets, and each moment spent within its embrace was an opportunity to discover something new. He was not just surviving, he was beginning to thrive, finding joy in the simple act of being alive amidst the splendor and danger of the rainforest. As he settled into the comfort of the leaves, the baby sloth let out a contented sigh. He was ready for whatever the next day would bring, eager to embrace the lessons of survival that the forest had to offer. In the heart of this wild, untamed land, he was learning not only to survive, but also to live fully, embracing every moment as a precious gift. As dawn broke over the rainforest, the baby sloth awoke to the soft, golden light filtering through the leaves. The air was cool and crisp, filled with the earthy scent of dew-kissed foliage. He stretched his limbs, still feeling the remnants of sleep tugging at him. But the day ahead promised new adventures and lessons. Today, he felt a surge of energy coursing through his small body, a desire to explore beyond the familiar branches of his home tree, to venture into the unknown depths of the vibrant jungle that surrounded him. With a renewed sense of purpose, the sloth climbed down from his resting branch, carefully navigating the intricate web of vines and leaves that surrounded him. Each movement was deliberate, a dance of caution and curiosity as he ventured deeper into the heart of the jungle. Today, the sunlight streamed in through the gaps in the canopy, casting dappled patterns on the forest floor, illuminating the path ahead. He could feel the warmth of the sun on his back, a comforting embrace that encouraged him to explore. As he moved through the forest, he couldn't help but notice the vibrant life all around him. Birds chirped melodiously, their songs filling the air with a sense of joy and vitality. The capuchin monkeys were already awake, their playful antics echoing through the trees as they chased one another, their laughter-like calls ringing out in a chorus of excitement. The sloth watched them with admiration, feeling a sense of camaraderie with these lively creatures who thrived in the same world. Their joyful energy was contagious, and he felt a flutter of excitement within him. But as he ventured further, the atmosphere began to shift. The once gentle breeze grew stronger, rustling the leaves and sending a shiver down the sloth's spine. He paused, sensing something was amiss. The usual sounds of the jungle, chirping insects and the rustle of small mammals, began to fade, replaced by an unsettling silence. The vibrant colors of the forest seemed muted, as if a shadow had fallen over his beloved home. Suddenly, dark clouds rolled in, blocking out the sun and casting the forest in a dim light. The sloth's heart raced as he felt the first drops of rain begin to fall. Slowly at first, then quickly intensifying into a torrential downpour. The once tranquil jungle transformed into a chaotic symphony of sound, as the rain hammered against the leaves and the ground, creating a cacophony that echoed through the trees. The baby sloth had never experienced such a storm before. He scrambled to find shelter, his instincts kicking in as he searched for a sturdy branch that would protect him from the deluge. The rain pooled on the leaves, creating small rivers that flowed down towards the forest floor. He could see the water pooling around the base of the tree, and he knew he needed to get higher, away from the rising tide. Finally, he spotted a thick branch arching over his head. With determination, he climbed quickly, his limbs working in unison as he grasped onto the rough bark. As he ascended, droplets of rain splattered against his back, but he pressed on until he reached the safety of the higher branches. Here, the leaves formed a protective canopy, sheltering him from the worst of the storm. Once settled, the sloth took a moment to catch his breath. He watched as the rain transformed the forest, bringing it to life in a different way. The lush greens appeared even more vibrant, glistening with moisture. The sounds of the storm were mesmerizing, a rhythmic beat that pulsed through the air. He felt a mix of fear and awe. The rainforest was powerful, and he was just a small creature in its vast embrace. As the storm raged on, the sloth began to reflect on the lessons he had learned so far. He had faced danger from predators, learned to forage for food, and now he was experiencing the unpredictable nature of the jungle itself. Each challenge had shaped him, molding him into a more resilient creature. He realized that survival in the rainforest required not only strength, but also adaptability and a willingness to face the unknown. After what felt like hours, the rain began to taper off, the downpour transforming into a gentle drizzle. The sloth peered through the leaves, watching as the forest gradually returned to life. The sound of the rain softened, and he could hear the faint calls of birds resuming their songs. The jungle was awakening again, and he felt a sense of relief wash over him. He had weathered the storm, both literally and metaphorically. After a few moments, he decided it was time to venture out again. He carefully climbed down from his perch, testing the branches to ensure they were steady. The ground was slick and muddy, but he navigated through the underbrush with a newfound confidence. The rain had nourished the plants, and he could see new leaves sprouting everywhere, inviting him to sample their freshness. The vibrant colors of the forest seemed to dance in the light, a celebration of life that filled him with a sense of wonder. As he explored, he stumbled upon a small clearing where the sunlight broke through the clouds, casting a warm glow on the forest floor. In the center of the clearing stood a massive fruit tree, its branches heavy with bright, colorful fruits. The sight was inviting, and he felt a surge of excitement as he realized he had found a new source of food. He climbed the tree with eagerness, his limbs moving swiftly as he reached for the ripe fruits that hung just within his grasp. The flavors burst in his mouth, sweet and juicy, invigorating him after the exhausting storm. He savored each bite, feeling the energy return to his body. The sensation of nourishment revitalized him, filling him with warmth and strength. As he feasted, he noticed other creatures gathering around the tree. Birds of all colors, insects buzzing, and even a few curious monkeys who had made their way over to join him. The atmosphere was alive with excitement and camaraderie. The sloth felt a sense of belonging, surrounded by others who shared in the bounty of the forest. The monkeys chattered animatedly, their eyes bright with mischief as they attempted to reach the highest fruits. In that moment, he understood something profound. The rainforest was a community, a network of life intertwined in ways he had yet to fully comprehend. Each creature played a role, and together they created a vibrant ecosystem that thrived despite the challenges they faced. The storm had brought them together, reminding him that even in the fiercest of challenges, there was always a chance for growth and connection. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, the warmth enveloped him, and he felt a deep sense of gratitude for the lessons he had learned. He had faced fear, embraced uncertainty, and discovered the richness of his environment. The storm had been a test, but it had also opened his eyes to the beauty of resilience and the importance of community. With a full belly and a heart brimming with newfound wisdom, the baby sloth made his way back to the safety of the trees as the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. He felt a deep sense of contentment, knowing that he was not just surviving. He was thriving in the embrace of the rainforest. As he settled onto a sturdy branch for the night, He reflected on his journey thus far. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and adventures, and he was ready to face them with courage and determination. The rainforest was both a sanctuary and a battleground, and he was prepared to navigate its perils. With a final glance at the vibrant sunset, he closed his eyes, allowing the gentle sounds of the jungle to lull him into a peaceful sleep. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but he was ready to embrace them, to learn and grow. He was a part of the rainforest, a small creature with a big heart, determined to survive and thrive in the wild. As night fell, the stars emerged like tiny gems scattered across a vast velvet sky, glimmering above the forest. The sloth drifted into sleep, dreaming of the adventures that awaited him. He envisioned himself swinging gracefully through the trees, foraging with the capuchins, and perhaps even finding a way to outsmart the jaguar. In his dreams, he was not just a baby sloth, but a hero of the jungle, navigating the complexities of life with courage and wisdom. With each passing day, he would grow stronger and learn more about his world. He understood that the forest held countless secrets, and each moment spent within its embrace was an opportunity to discover something new. He was not just surviving. He was beginning to thrive, finding joy in the simple act of being alive amidst the splendor and danger of the rainforest. As he settled into the comfort of the leaves, the baby sloth let out a contented sigh. He was ready for whatever the next day would bring, eager to embrace the lessons of survival that the forest had to offer. In the heart of this wild, untamed land, he was learning not only to survive, but also to live fully, embracing every moment as a precious gift. The rainforest was a place of beauty and danger, and he was learning to navigate it with grace and resilience, one branch at a time. As the gentle sounds of the jungle enveloped him, he felt a deep connection to the world around him, a bond that would guide him through the challenges ahead. In that moment of stillness, he realized that he was not alone. He was part of something much larger, a vibrant, living tapestry of existence woven together by the threads of life, death, and rebirth. The morning dawned with a brilliant cascade of light filtering through the dense canopy. The baby sloth stirred from his slumber, blinking away the remnants of sleep as the forest came alive around him. The air was thick with humidity after yesterday's storm, creating a misty veil that hung between the trees like gossamer curtains. He stretched his limbs, feeling the pleasant ache of muscles that had grown stronger with each passing day. The dappled sunlight played across his fur, warming him as he prepared for whatever adventures the day might bring. Today felt different somehow. There was an electric energy in the air, a sense of anticipation that he couldn't quite place. As he began his morning ritual of searching for tender leaves, he noticed subtle changes in the forest. New flowers had bloomed overnight, their vibrant petals unfurling to greet the sun. The storm had breathed new life into the jungle, and everywhere he looked, the world seemed more vivid, more alive. Droplets of water still clung to the leaves, catching the light and transforming into tiny prisms that scattered rainbows across the forest floor. The sloth moved with newfound confidence, his movements more fluid and purposeful than before. He had learned much in his time alone, adapting to the rhythms of the rainforest and developing an intuitive understanding of its ways. Yet, despite his growing independence, there was still a loneliness that lingered in his heart, a yearning for connection that even the beauty of the forest couldn't fill. Sometimes, in the quiet moments between foraging and resting, he would find himself listening for sounds of others like him, hoping to hear a familiar call that would break the solitude of his existence. As he ventured further than he had ever gone before, he found himself in an unfamiliar part of the jungle. The trees here were older, their trunks wider and more gnarled, their branches reaching skyward like ancient guardians. Moss-covered vines hung in thick curtains, creating a labyrinth of green that both intrigued and intimidated him. The very air seemed different here, heavy with the scent of earth and time, as if this section of the forest existed in its own separate realm, untouched by the passage of years. Suddenly, a rustling sound caught his attention. He froze, his instincts immediately on alert. The memory of the jaguar was still fresh in his mind, and he scanned his surroundings carefully, ready to retreat to safety if necessary. His heart pounded in his chest, a rapid drumbeat that seemed to echo through the stillness of the forest. But what emerged from the underbrush was not a fearsome predator, but another sloth, an older female with wise eyes and a gentle demeanor. The baby sloth watched in amazement as the older sloth climbed with deliberate grace up the trunk of a nearby tree. She moved with a confidence born of experience, her movements economical yet fluid. Each reach and grasp was precise, a testament to years of navigating the complex architecture of the rainforest canopy. She seemed to notice him, watching, and paused, turning her head slowly to meet his gaze. Her eyes, deep pools of amber, held a warmth and intelligence that immediately put him at ease. For a moment, they simply observed each other, a silent communication passing between them. The baby sloth felt a strange sense of kinship with this stranger, as if they were connected by an invisible thread that transcended their brief acquaintance. There was something in her gaze that spoke of shared experiences, of understanding the challenges of life in the jungle. After what felt like an eternity, the older sloth made a soft chirping sound, a gentle invitation that needed no translation. With cautious excitement, the baby sloth began to climb toward her. As he approached, he could see the wisdom etched in her features, the stories written in the pattern of her fur. Small scars and marks told tales of survival, of encounters with predators and elements that she had overcome. She was not his mother, but there was something maternal in her gaze, a warmth that made him feel safe for the first time since he had found himself alone. "You have survived much, little one," her eyes seemed to say, as she reached out a paw to gently touch his head. The gesture was simple but profound, an acknowledgement of his journey and the strength he had shown. The baby sloth leaned into her touch, feeling a surge of emotion that threatened to overwhelm him. It had been so long since he had felt the comfort of another's touch, and he hadn't realized how much he had craved that connection until this moment. Over the next few hours, the older sloth showed him how to find the sweetest leaves, the ones hidden beneath canopies that most creatures overlooked. She demonstrated how to grip the branches more effectively, conserving energy with each movement. Her lessons were practical, delivered without words, but with a patience that spoke volumes about her character. She would wait as he attempted to mimic her techniques, offering gentle corrections with a nudge or a soft chirp when he struggled. They moved through the canopy together, the older sloth leading him to a hidden grove where the leaves were particularly tender and nutritious. Here, she showed him how to identify the youngest shoots, the ones that provided the most sustenance with the least effort. She taught him to use his sense of smell to detect subtle differences in the foliage, to distinguish between plants that were safe and those that might cause discomfort. Each lesson was a gift, a piece of knowledge passed down that would help him not just survive, but thrive in his environment. As the day progressed, they were joined by other sloths, emerging from different parts of the forest, as if drawn by an unseen signal. The baby sloth watched in wonder as they gathered, a small community of his kind that he hadn't known existed. There were males and females of varying ages, each with their own unique markings and personalities. Some bore the signs of age and experience, their movements slower but no less deliberate, while others were in their prime, their fur glossy and their eyes bright with vitality. One young female, not much older than himself, approached him with curious eyes. Her fur was a lighter shade than his, with distinctive markings around her face that reminded him of a mask. She chirped at him playfully, inviting him to join her on a nearby branch. With a glance at his older companion, who nodded encouragingly, he followed his new friend. The young female moved with an energy that was infectious, her playful demeanor a stark contrast to the measured pace of the older sloths. Together, they explored the surrounding trees, the young female showing him hidden pathways through the canopy that he would never have discovered on his own. She was more adventurous than he was, taking risks that made his heart race. But her confidence was contagious. She would leap across gaps that seemed impossibly wide, then turn back to encourage him with chirps and gestures. By midday, he found himself attempting maneuvers he would never have dared before, stretching across gaps that once would have terrified him. Each successful leap was met with a chorus of approving chirps from his new friend, her excitement bolstering his growing confidence. They discovered a tree laden with fruit, its branches bending under the weight of the ripened bounty. The young female showed him how to extract the sweet flesh from the tough exterior, a skill that required patience and precision. They feasted together, the juice of the fruit sticky on their fur, a small indulgence that felt like a celebration of their newfound friendship. Nearby, a group of toucans watched them with curious eyes, their vibrant beaks a splash of color against the green backdrop of the forest. As they continued their exploration, they encountered other inhabitants of the rainforest. A family of howler monkeys observed them from a distance, their powerful calls echoing through the trees like rolling thunder. A brilliant blue morpho butterfly fluttered past, its wings catching the sunlight in a display of iridescent beauty. Each encounter was a reminder of the diversity of life that surrounded them, of the complex web of existence that they were a part of. The young female led him to a small pool of water that had collected in the hollow of a tree. The water was clear and cool, a welcome respite from the humidity of the day. They took turns drinking, the refreshing liquid quenching a thirst they hadn't realized they had. As they rested beside the pool, a tiny tree frog emerged from beneath a leaf, its bright red skin a warning of the toxins it carried. The young female watched it with respectful distance, teaching him through her example about the dangers that could hide in even the most beautiful packages. As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows through the trees, the sloths gathered together on a wide, sturdy branch. The older female who had first found him took a position at the center, and the others arranged themselves around her, forming a circle of fur and warmth. The baby sloth found himself nestled between his new friend and another juvenile, their bodies providing comfort against the cooling air. The sense of security was overwhelming, a physical manifestation of the emotional sanctuary he had found within this community. In this circle of his kind, the baby sloth felt something he had almost forgotten, the sense of belonging to a family. They shared food, groomed one another, and communicated in soft chirps and gentle touches that spoke more eloquently than words ever could. An older male with a distinctive patch of lighter fur on his back shared a cluster of berries with the group, passing them around with careful paws. Two younger sloths engaged in a playful wrestling match, their movements slow, but their enjoyment evident in their bright eyes and chirping laughter. As night fell and the forest transformed into a symphony of nocturnal sounds. He realized that he had found not just safety, but also community. The darkness that had once seemed threatening now felt like a protective blanket, enveloping their group in a shared experience of rest and rejuvenation. The calls of night birds and the chorus of insects created a lullaby that soothed his once anxious heart. The older female sloth, whom he had come to think of as his mentor, settled beside him as the others began to drift into sleep. She gazed at him with those wise eyes, and he felt as if she could see into his very soul, understanding the journey that had brought him to this moment. Her presence was a comfort, a steady anchor in a world that had often felt chaotic and unpredictable. "Rest now," her gentle pat seemed to say. "You are home." And for the first time since he had found himself alone in the vast rainforest, the baby sloth truly believed it. The word home had once conjured images of a single tree, a familiar branch where he had first opened his eyes to the world. Now, it encompassed something much broader, a community, a network of relationships, a sense of belonging that transcended physical location. As he drifted into sleep, surrounded by the warmth and protection of his newfound family, he felt a peace that had eluded him for so long. The dangers of the jungle still existed. The jaguar still prowled, the boa still hunted, and storms would still come. But he was no longer facing them alone. There was strength in numbers, wisdom in shared experience, and comfort in the knowledge that others were watching over him as he slept. In the embrace of his community, the baby sloth dreamed not of survival, but of thriving, of exploring the forest with his new companions, of learning the ancient wisdom of his species, and of perhaps one day passing that wisdom on to others who might find themselves alone and afraid as he once had. His dreams were filled with images of lush canopies and vibrant flowers, of playful leaps between branches and the sweet taste of fruit shared with friends. These were no longer just fantasies, but possibilities, tangible futures that lay within his reach. The rainforest, with all its beauty and peril, was still his home, but now it held a new promise. It was not just a place of survival, but a place of connection, of growth, and of unexpected allies who appeared just when they were needed most. The very challenges that had once seemed insurmountable now felt like opportunities for learning and development, chances to apply the wisdom shared by his new family and to discover his own unique strengths. As the night deepened and the stars twinkled through gaps in the canopy, the baby sloth slept peacefully, his small chest rising and falling in rhythm with those around him. The gentle breeze carried the scents of the forest, earth and flowers, water and wood, creating an olfactory tapestry that was both familiar and comforting. Nearby, a nightjar called, its haunting song a reminder of the life that continued even as they rested. Tomorrow would bring new adventures, new challenges, and new lessons. But he would face them with the strength of his community behind him, the wisdom of his mentor guiding him, and the friendship of his peers supporting him. The path ahead was unknown, but it was no longer frightening. Instead, it was filled with possibility, with the promise of discovery and connection that made each step worthwhile. In the heart of the wild rainforest, the baby sloth had found not just a place to survive, but a place to belong. And in that belonging, he had found the greatest lesson of all, that even the smallest creature can find strength in connection, courage in community, and hope in the heart of the wilderness. This understanding would carry him forward, a guiding light through whatever challenges lay ahead, a reminder that he was part of something greater than himself, a thread in the intricate tapestry of life that was the rainforest. As the moon cast its silver light through the leaves, illuminating the sleeping forms of his newfound family, the baby sloth's dreams were peaceful, filled with the promise of tomorrow and the security of today. In finding others like himself, he had also found a part of himself that had been missing, a sense of purpose and belonging that completed him in ways he hadn't known were possible. And in this completion, he had discovered the true meaning of home.